well, I'll be mean to myself now. Well, I'm going to tell you about an app that also has been, it's not really an app, I will tell you, it's more an app of sorts, and I will tell you what I mean by this. Also within the same research project, my colleagues who spoke right before, that I developed together with Cristina Cay and Pilar Rodriguez from the same group. I tell you this is an app of sorts because it's rather an online resource that can be run on mobile devices. And precisely I'm going to present here both the resource itself and the results of an experiment we carried out comparing students using it on PCs and students using it on mobile devices. So it's been developed on Moodle, as you can see there. And it intends to have a strong methodology, like everything contextualized with clear learning goals, as you can see there. We have listening comprehensions, vocabulary, lexical grammar, over to you, everything contextualized, as I said. It intends also to have a sound theoretical background, which is one of the weak points in most pedagogical methods for the teaching of second language or foreign languages. And we've used SFL, systemic functional language, as the theoretical background for the explanations of the lexicographer. What we do is basically try to adapt systemic functional linguistics, which can be a bit too thick, to a more plain language for learners. In this particular case, in this lesson, we are telling them about how to deal with mental processes and the grammar of mental processes, to deal with talking about your likings and dislikings about food, etc. Well, this is part of the grammar lesson. Then this is followed by listening. I mean, we start with a listening comprehension, the lesson. You listen to a situation whether the characters order unknown food in a restaurant in Philadelphia, and then they talk about this food, etc. So they have plenty of opportunity to talk about mental processes. So here we have some of the questions about what they just listened to. Then there is some vocabulary where they're presented or exposed to some of the vocabulary that came up in the lesson. And they can access a glossary, and then after that glossary they have to answer some questions. And then we have the lexicographer part, where they have, of course, since we want it to be self-corrected, it's kind of a drilling system where where Moodle can give them the feedback, practicing with mental processes in the context always of this ordering food and talking about food. This is a screenshot from one of the activities. And then there's a final section which is over to you, where students have access to a diary written by one of the characters with whom students ideally identify themselves, and they have to correct some of the mistakes that the character makes using those mental processes. Now, this is, as I told you, it's not an app itself, but it can be run on smartphones. This is what it would look on a smartphone when you run the app, when you run the educational resource. And now the experiments we ran, the goal was to obtain feedback from EFL learners, no? Because we are always very often talking about whether this resource is better, is worse, and we often run tests using colleagues and other researchers, but we thought that would be interesting to get the actual feedback from the students, right? So we got two English students from the degree in classical philology at my university, Universidad Complutense, B1 level. And what we did was use the application outside the classroom setting as part of the self-study component of the evaluation. And then after they did the whole lesson, Eating Out is the name of the lesson, they had to answer a questionnaire, which was based on a previously designed quality guide and rubric that we used precisely within our research project to evaluate apps and to help ourselves having a guide to develop apps. We've already presented this guide and rubric in previous publications. The questionnaire you might not see very well, but basically what we have is 5 questions about pedagogical aspects and 5 questions about technological aspects. At first we thought, well, maybe those using the mobile devices will be less happy with the technological side because maybe having to fumble with the tablet or with the smartphone will be less convenient than using the PC. So we were expectant about what the results would be. Now the survey results show that well, the first row means that there were 26 students using PC and only 6 using smartphones, and then these are all the from 1 to 5 they could answer. 1 was always strongly disagree, 5 is strongly agree with the different questions that were posed. I remind you, these are pedagogical questions, and these are technical questions. And now if we look at results a bit more in detail, we see that out of 5, well, in general, we always got near 4 or even above 4. One of the questions in the pedagogical side had 4.3, and in the technical side, 4.2. But this is taking everything into account, both PC users and smartphone users. And now comparing call versus mall, comparing PCs and smartphones, we see that there aren't many differences. This is always out of 5. Okay, and if you compare, we get very similar results. And in the technological side, okay, I can give you more details if somebody's interested about the different questions. We see that we get similar results, and actually the total averages are 4.0 and 4.0 for the whole thing. So the results, the conclusions is that students were sort of happy with the methodology of the educational resource because they gave us always around 4 out of 5. Of course, it can be improved. There were a similar degree of satisfaction among students using computers and those using mobile devices for working in and out, both on the pedagogical and technical divide and on the call-mall divide. And now, future work, pending work would be try and convert it into a real app, but this is a bit hard because it's technically quite complex. Okay, well, thank you.